Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take on an incremental game called Magic Archery. Now, just to give you some basic run-through as to how the game works, since it's an incremental game, another term for incrementals are clickers. This was not so much a clicker as it is a AFK slash clicker. Now, granted, your skills go up so fast in this one that there's not really a need to AFK in it. And it is free, so if you've ever been curious about an incremental game, this would be a good one to test out. Free, low memory value, relatively easy to install. I would recommend it. It takes, I think my first run through took a little over an hour to finish. And this is the third recording, which we'll get to in just a second. But by the third run, which is this one, I've gotten it down to about 50 minutes. And I'm sure I could go through and optimize it even more. Now, why is this the third recording? Well, I was using this game to practice with OBS a little bit because there's some PC games that I would like to record. Because if I'm using OBS, I can actually record voiceovers while recording the video, and then I just have to edit the video afterwards, which should make this whole process just a little bit more streamlined. So instead of a 50-minute video like this taking 140 minutes to record at minimum because of the fact having to go through and add in voiceovers, which realistically this won't be 140 minutes because even though I've got 50 minutes of footage, the odds that I keep every single minute of it in pretty low. Might, you never know. Depends on if I have enough stuff to talk about to fill in the time. But anyway, being able to actually record in OBS lets me do voiceovers while recording. It also should give you guys just a little bit more authentic reaction when it's something where it's like a playthrough, instead of me just commentating afterwards. The commentating afterwards is not a big deal with Monster Hunter because I'm already familiar enough with that series that the odds of me being really surprised are pretty slim. So getting any sort of real hot takes as an off-the-cuff reaction, unlikely. And a lot of what I'm talking about with Monster Hunter is analysis after the fact. This, I was trying to give you just sort of my takes on how it goes as it played. And what happened was, let me see if I can throw something up on the screen to demonstrate this. Roughly that much of the screen, like the area below the line, was just completely missing. Because when I set it up, I didn't set it up properly to actually record the full frame. So I had to discard that one. Well, the second attempt at a playthrough, I actually just completely forgot to hit start record. So I did a whole second run, got nothing out of it. Now I'm probably thinking, well, it's just an hour-long game. That's not that big a deal. Yeah, no, I had decided, like firmly in my mind, this is going to be the next video that I produce for the channel. Right now I have a newborn. So my schedule's really wonky. Squeezing in even just a solid hour to do this, it's not terribly easy. So more or less for 2 or 3 days, this has ruined my free time trying to get this recorded. Realistically, probably not going to get that many views, but I'm enjoying it. So let's talk about the game a little bit now that my character's had time to actually pull up a little bit of progress. So as you can probably tell from watching in the background, what happens is you start out just straight up with one stat. Once you build that stat up enough, you open up a job. The job, at least early on, does nothing but really earn you a little bit of gold. Later on, they start getting a little bit more complex, and they'll actually add in layers of experience. So each job can be leveled up. Now, the strategy that I picked with the jobs, or quests as it's labeling them, is waiting until they would get to level 2 most of the time, because once you got them up to the second level, they were generally making more money than the previous job. Early on, it's not a really big deal to really manage the jobs. You just want to be on the one that's got the highest experience. Later on, they start actually adding in a little bit of bonus experience to some of your base stats. So like you'll see one of them's continuing to go up while the other one goes up in a herky-jerk fashion. typically the one you have selected is leveling up by you destroying targets. The one going up not from being selected is going up because it's getting some passive experience from the current quest. Now, every quest and successive job that's being opened revolve around balancing your resources. Quests get opened by having stats at certain levels, and you see on this one right now, the next quest, the skill requirement is to get accuracy up to level 20. But what's happening right now is I'm not paying enough attention and haven't noticed that. So now you'll probably see me start to save up cash, buy accuracy, switch to it immediately, and start leveling it up. So I had to build up gold to buy the next stat. So you use gold to unlock your stats, and you use gold to get your equipment that also boosts the experience for particular stats, or, as I'm saving up for right now, autocraft targets, make the targets tougher so they give more experience, or and more rewards for each destruction. And there's a few other little trainers that you can get that will actually boost things. Plus down there at the bottom, move to city, changes the setting, resets the quests, and gives you even more levels to add to your equipment. Now, my first impression, I was like, okay, cool. I wonder how many settings you're going to get to go through. The answer is 2. Do the forest and the city. Is there any benefit to holding off on going to the city? Not really, because even though it resets the quests, the very first quest in the city is actually better than any other quest here. So I'm assuming one of the things, there's a certain point you want to hit where then you just let your gold build up and jump straight to moving to the city. I have this compulsion to try to level things evenly, whereas realistically I would say I could cut quite a bit more time off of this just by leveling up my experience boosters a little bit, making sure to unlock most of my basic stats. I say most of them for a reason. There's one that pops up in a little bit that takes 50,000 to unlock, so there's no point in unlocking it until you move to the city. But then just hop into the city as fast as possible, because the rate that my gold earn will be boosted would be enough to make up for getting there early. Now, we've almost unlocked all of the quests. We've actually started capping off some of the pieces of equipment, and we're getting pretty close to unlocking all the basic stats. Not quite there yet, but we're getting close to it. Now, some of the things you'll see me like jump down to level up strength, because strength is right now the primary driver that I have for damage. The 2 damage ones that are really big at the moment are strength and dexterity. Dexterity makes you shoot faster. Strength makes you hit harder. Accuracy is basically your crit. Now, one thing to pay attention to is it's not your crit percentage, it's an increase to your crit rate. Now, what that default crit rate is, I'm not 100% certain. So, while you can get accuracy, you get 1% increase to your crit chance for every point in accuracy. That doesn't necessarily translate to directly to 1% increase in crit rate. So 100% increase, or 100 points in accuracy, doubles your crit chance. Yet again, not the same as actually having 100% crit rate. Granted, the higher it gets, you will see them start popping up frequently enough that it's definitely worth investing in, and realistically, to beat the game, you actually do have to invest in all of them. I think the final number you got to get every stat to 168, and that unlocks the ability to end the game. Now, what do I think about this one? Well, it's very, very good at giving you the whole numbers go up, power goes up, speed goes up thing. There are only a couple points in the game where you really get hung for a little bit, but since this is only an hour-long incremental, it doesn't have the things where sometimes you gotta farm particular sets for hours. A couple other incrementals that I've beaten are mostly browser-based, so like Dodeca Dragons and Hyper Game, stuff along those lines. I've actually completed those. This one's really, really fast. So it gives you those dopamine hits that you get from making the numbers go up quite a bit faster. And yeah, people probably chuckle at that description, but that's pretty much the whole premise behind incremental or clicker games. Is watch numbers go up, get bigger numbers, do other things to make your numbers go up faster, get dopamine. So they are just shortcuts to all the best parts about games. Now, with this particular one, this is sort of the slowest point of the first level. That could just be because of my approach to it, though. I very well could have kneecapped myself by upgrading the targets just a little bit too early. When you go to do the target upgrades, if you upgrade them too early, you won't have enough damage to actually take them out fast enough to not slow down your resource generation. Upgrade them too late, though, and you sort of limit how much you can actually produce overall. I'm sure people have optimized the hell out of this by this point, but it's so short, there's almost no fun in Googling it and trying to figure out what the optimal strategy is. So I may end up playing through it a couple more times. Like, this is actually a fun game. I 100% give it my stamp of approval, especially since it's free. If you have a Steam account, you can get it right now. Get it installed. It's not big at all. It's a couple megabytes. Dude has actually made another game that I'm going to check out, see how it plays. There's only a demo up for it right now. He doesn't have the complete game out, I don't believe. But this is very good. One problem that you run into with incrementals is sometimes you just get stuck in this spot where you just kind of have to let it sit and generate resources for a while. And there's just not a lot to do. With this one, about the time you're starting to feel like you might be getting just a little bit bored, there's something for you to actually upgrade. So you're generating resources fast enough that there's almost always something you can do or something you can be investing into, or you're getting close to hitting another point where you get an upgrade. And that is the best aspect of incrementals, which is a shame that this one is so short because of that, because it does that really well. If you've been curious about trying out an incremental or a clicker at all, which this one's not really much of a clicker, it's more just an incremental, a wait and go game, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. Music's peaceful, the sound's peaceful, although you'll find out here in a little bit, it's going to get a little bit chaotic. Magic Affinity, the next thing that opens up, actually opens up a skill tree. And that skill tree lets you start getting magic arrows. And each one of those magic arrows has their own little sound effect that goes along with them, to the point where I'll probably tone the volume for that area down when we get to that point. Right now, the little tick, tick, tick's probably already starting to drive people a little bit crazy. Ah, look. We got some vitality arrows going. Let me just turn the master volume for that section down some. Alright, yeah. Now, you probably didn't notice that because it'll be that way from the beginning, but we've tweaked the background sound to be down just a little bit. So, one cool thing that this opened up by getting that second arrow is if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you actually have a list that shows the different arrows. And actually, what the bars kind of represent is what the relative percentage each arrow is of your overall damage. So right now, we see we're pulling about 64. Well, it's going up because we're leveling up vitality. And vitality is what the vitality arrows are based off of. That's actually what vitality gives you a stat in. But about 77,000 per minute in terms of damage. And at this exact moment, it's almost 50-50 between my basic arrow and the vitality arrows. But that gives you an idea of where the majority of your damage is coming from, and it can actually either show you what you want to continue to improve, or show you what you can bring up to be in line with everything else. And the way I would say is the best to look at it is where can you invest your points to bring other things up? Because with something like this, you have diminishing returns. Like, it starts taking more and more and more resources to keep upgrading past a certain point. So when you see certain sections lagging behind, it's a lot easier to bring those things up and put them in line with everything else than it is to try to just keep pushing that one thing that's really far ahead further than everything else. Most of the time. Sometimes in a game you'll have something that's broken. It's relatively easy to upgrade. That doesn't seem to be the case in this game. It seems like everything's pretty well balanced. At least until you get closer to the end of it. Then some fun things start to happen. So, now we're just finishing leveling up mining and saving up to get us to move to a city. So let's jump ahead just a little bit. Alright, so now we finally have enough gold to upgrade and move to the city. And we fully upgraded that last job, which really that would probably be a spot that's not 100% necessary, but whatever. So now we're back down to just one job, but if you notice, it will only take one upgrade to get it to be higher than the final job we had in the last area, final quest. So we're already producing gold at a pretty decent clip. That means we're going to get some initial wave of upgrades done very fast, which also means if we had waited and had anything lingering from the previous area, we would be able to get it up to the current section pretty quickly. So again, if you can figure out what an optimal path is to get everything upgraded so that you can move from one to the next fastest, you can probably catch something up very, very quickly here at the very beginning of this one. So, if you notice, this is giving concentration experience, and it uses concentration to actually boost itself. So, one area where I tend to be a little bit slow in this one is leaving jobs on until they get capped, or quests on until they get capped to cap out the experience gain. When in reality, opening up some of the next quests a lot of the times would actually have that quest giving us that same previous things experience, so leveling it up, but also giving us more gold overall. So that would probably be a better strategy moving forward into the future. We have opened up the ability to unlock more targets. We've also, if it scrolls down a little bit, which I don't think I scroll down just yet, down near the bottom there's two special upgrades. One of them is a wizard that helps us train in magic, and one of them is a tome that boosts all stats. Now granted, the upgrade to all stats is a little bit expensive. It's 20 million for the first jump. The wizard, on the other hand, is going to come in quite handy once we get magic affinity, although he may not be there yet until we get magic affinity opened. I don't know, I haven't really checked. But that's what we're waiting on right now. Saving up the gold to open up magic affinity, and then get to take a look at its talent tree. Yeah, so immediately get a couple points into it, even though it's not the one that's the meta one to build up right now, because magic affinity is what gives you the rate where you gain your passive points for the magic tree over here. Now, it is basically a talent tree. The strategy that I decided to take on in this run, which I'm not really hovering over the magic tree all that much, but you'll see in just a minute, is to try to unlock all the arrows as fast as possible. I actually think a strategy that I used on the prior run is a better one, which would be to go down the vitality tree as quickly as possible, because it actually gives some generalized boosts that I think would be more useful in the long run. But not a whole lot I can do about that now, but I can do another run just to test it out at some point. But now, all we're doing is going through and trying to cap out our stats. Starting into the magic talent tree. There are the wizard guys down there, and we have our first magic arrow. Now, it actually doesn't take all that long to build up the talent points for this tree, but if you're moving fast enough, you will not cap that whole thing off. Like, I finished this run with probably 2 or 3 more talent points opened up. There's 2 areas in that tree that I think are actually particularly useful. On the right hand side, if you go all the way down to the bottom on it, there are 2 nodes that give you a 100% boost to your gold. Those should be tackled early on. Do not do that. I actually don't get them until close to the end. And then towards the left hand side, not the far left, but next to the far left, there's a few things that actually give you just a generalized boost that would be good talents to get early on. So either one of those trees would be good places to focus on to gain the most benefit across this whole thing. Now, flip side of it too, though, most of the arrows are linked to some sort of other stat. And in their respective trees, they have nodes that give boosts to experience for that stat. So another potential way that you can actually optimize through this would be if you went through and actually looked at what the order is going to be that you need to upgrade the stats in, focusing on those arrows early on and trying to get to those boost nodes early on. However, realistically, it's not 100% necessary to do early on. That is one thing that's kind of fun about this. The game is over so fast that you can go through and experiment theorycraft pretty quickly. I'm almost certain if you get to digging around, someone has done the numbers, run some spreadsheets, blah, 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 done all that stuff where they know what the exact optimal path is. This is the type of game that is going to be rife with optimization, where about the only thing that's really going to come up with any sort of variance will probably be how much you crit. So, I don't know. I would imagine it'll have some interesting speedrun stats because of that. But, well, let's jump ahead just a little bit to see what it looks like once we get a couple more arrows open. Alright, so I jumped us ahead about 10 minutes worth of playtime, just to throw a few more upgrades in the pool, because realistically, you don't need to see me buy every single upgrade. Although I haven't been upgrading the quests as quickly as probably should. You can see down there I actually got one of the gold upgrades, and you'll see at this point that that will actually start significantly boosting the rate that I get gold. Whatever the current job says it's producing gold-wise, if you actually look at the numbers, the little red number that pops up beside the gold, it'll be exactly double whatever the job says it's producing. So, job says it's making 16k, the little red number shows I'm getting 32. Those nodes would be significantly more valuable early on. You notice with Arena Champion, I went ahead and grabbed it early because the fact that it's boosting the skill faster than Assassin was, that's used to upgrade Arena Champion. So it's actually better to go ahead and jump to it at 1 and take the temporary gold boost drop, because that's going to rapidly increase the rate that you get back to the regular gold boost. The talent tree, as you boost up magic affinity and unlock upgrades for the wizard, that starts actually going up really rapidly. And what you'll see is, unlike a lot of incrementals, well, you know, unlike a lot of incrementals with this one, once you actually start building up some of your stats, things actually start snowballing faster and faster. So the early phase in each section of the game goes a little bit slower than the late phase does. At least up until the point where you're getting to where you're grinding towards the end. Now, personally, I think the arrow effects in the background get to where they're kind of annoying in the long run. You might say they have a little bit of an ASMR kind of effect to them, but they're so desperate. Like, the weird mixture of them just bothers me. I wish there was an option to actually go in and selectively turn off specific effects, because I actually don't mind the regular arrow sounds. I think it's actually kind of cool. Oh yeah, by the way, the cool thing about buying all those extra arrows, and the reason why they're useful, most of them aren't targeted, so they hit randomly. Only a couple of them, like the Vitality Arrow and the Basic Arrow, are specifically targeted. So you'll have one target that's actually going down steadily. The other arrows will actually scatter and hit your other targets. So if it weren't for them, there wouldn't really be any point in buying extra targets, right? Maybe having 2, just so that your character's constantly shooting one and they're not waiting for it to be crafted, so there's 0 downtime. But if it weren't for the fact that you actually can have arrows that scatter and do damage to other ones at random, there'd be no point in having any more than 2. As a matter of fact, it would probably mathematically slow you down a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. I'm To be honest, I'm pulled that out of my ass. I could be completely wrong about that now that I think about it. Really wouldn't make sense for it to slow you down as long as your character went selectively from 1 to 1 and stayed on it till it broke. Anyway, whatever. I was wrong. That was a stupid thing to say. Just ignore that. Anyway, the fact that they hit at random is why I wanted to get as many of the different arrows as early on as possible. So I've got every arrow that you can have. That way, I can be doing as much damage to as many different targets as possible and accelerate the rate that I destroy targets, which boosts all the other stat gains and blah, 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 blah. You can probably see the value in actually having multiple targets being taken down at once. So, that's where the arrows become kind of cool. Beyond that, at this point, there's not really anything else left to open up. There's no really cool final twist to it. It's just a matter of continuing to grind to the end. So I'm going to speed things up just a little bit and jump us to close to the end, but not quite there. Alright, so we've jumped up to the point where we're getting ready to unlock the last job. As soon as you do that, you actually unlock the complete game criterion. You notice there's a whole bunch of stuff left to open up. A whole bunch of points left to be able to unlock the talent tree. But at this point, we can definitively see what we need to do to actually finish the game, which is get every stat to 168. Now, being completely blunt, the best way to handle this is actually through manipulating the quests. Because those last two quests actually encompass a good chunk of your stats. There's only really one that they don't help all that much, but if you bounce between them appropriately, you can actually get multiples of them up to around 168. Pretty close to each other. Getting the 168 point, it's not that hard. There's no reason to hoard resources at this point. It doesn't really help anything. Matter of fact, going through and being sure that you're actually upgrading those jobs so that you actually maximize gold. And being sure that you've picked up the 2 nodes to boost gold production. And maybe boost damage with those crit nodes. Will help more than anything else. Because then you can go in, actually get the gear upgrades that boost experience gains. Because remember, even if the thing is gaining experience passively based off of a quest, that these items still boost the amount of experience they gain from that quest. So upgrading those things helps. I actually did stick around on one of the runs and bought every item upgrade even after getting all the stats finished, just because I was curious if it might be linked to a Steam achievement. It's not. So there's 7 Steam achievements, I think. Some of them are actually related to the menuing. So it's not that hard to get the Steam achievements. Just browse through them really quickly. Don't worry about sticking around to grab every single upgrade. Might be one for all the jobs, I'm not sure, but that's easy enough to get just passively. Although one of them does require that you go significantly past what the maximum stats are needed to actually cap out that stat for the final quest. So you see they start turning green as they hit 168, and that's your sign that you're getting close to finishing. And we jump ahead just a little bit more to the last time. The final stat that I've had almost every single time that I went through is accuracy. I haven't taken the time to look at the quest yet, but if I were a betting man, I would say accuracy is the stat that's upgraded the least passively through other skills. So, overall thoughts, I really enjoy this one. Definitely think you should try it. Well, remember everyone, have a good night, and if I can beat it, so can you.